if we are we going to talk about this land deal, because the land deal was purchased, but I mean there was still a dead end to the end of June. So she said no. She says we're going on holidays, and I said we're going to talk about anything. She gave us a whole bunch of manuals, and she says don't read this. If you have any questions, you call Mr. Dovell. So anyway, we got our meeting, and finally, at 2 months later, in June, getting close to the end of the deadline, and I did mention to her that, when we're talking about the deadline, I said, well, what about the offer of land at a general meeting from Kensington? And she says, well, that never happened. And I said, well, I have a hard time, I disagree with that. They said they tried to have meetings. And years ago, prior to me becoming a trustee and that, even before that, I actually have seen written proof, documentation of emails trying to get a hold of the board to have meetings, to get together to do some negotiating about the land. And what happened is day after day, the emails came in about trying to get a meeting, and no response or nobody's available. And this went day after day, week after week. And then finally, I guess there was a letter sent from the board, from their lawyer, saying if you have to talk to anybody from the board, you talk to the lawyer. And so I questioned the board on it. He says, well, is this a way to negotiate? I mean, you're talking about making deals and negotiating and working together. Is that a way to deal, by getting your lawyer to try to make arrangements, and all they want to do is start negotiations? So that started it, and then I said, and then the other thing I mentioned is, of course, this lease land that we had, and the lease was broken by one of our trustees, and I said, you know, he never had any written permission to move a trailer onto the property, and again, I says, is this how the board negotiates with, you know, with the developer or whoever trying to make negotiations, working together here. So, of course, everybody's, you know, they're looking at each other, and I said again, with this land deal, I said, what about this land deal? I said, why can't we get together and talk and see what he has to offer? Because instead of purchasing the land, if it does go through and it is offered to the people of Union Bay as a gift, no CEC credits, so we can put our filtration system in. So when I went there, Chair looked at me and she says, you got till Friday to see if you can do something. And Alcock was there, and she says it'd be a miracle if you can get anything in writing. So I said, okay, that's fine. And so at that point in time, I said to Peter, I says, would you be willing to come along with me and meet Mr. McMahon? And that means that there'd be 3 people instead of just 2 people talking. And he said he would. So that's what happened. So there was no motion, but Carol did say, you have till Friday. And I don't think she had any, I didn't think she, well, she probably didn't know that we would follow up, but we did follow up on it. And what happened is, I made a phone call the following day. We got together. I asked him about the offer, if he'd put something in writing. He said he would. And then the next day, we had this letter, and that same day was a Wednesday, and it was taken into the office. So there was no motion, you're right. But Carol Molstead gave us direction. She says, you have till Friday. And so we had something there, and go from there. So there was no motion, you're absolutely right. But Carol Molstead did say that, you have till Friday.
Thank you, Chair. Was this a board meeting?
It actually was.
So hence the value of audio-video recordings of meetings. Certainly if there had been an audio-video recording of the meeting, we would know what would have been said and what wasn't said.
It was an in-camera meeting, I think.
That's why I asked if it was a board meeting. I don't know. I wasn't there.
That's correct, it was an in-camera meeting. And the point is, did Carol Molstad have the authority to say what she did? Perhaps not. We didn't know that. We were new trustees, and we simply did what we did. And
But you didn't have authority.
A sec. It's rather a moot point anyway, because the letter of intent was never signed by him.
That doesn't make it a moot point. The letter not being signed has nothing to do with your actions. You had no authority by the Union Bay Improvement District Board of Trustees to approach the developer and negotiate with him. You just admitted there was no motion. You misunderstood. That's fine. You made a mistake. But your mistake is something you have to live with. So you have to recuse yourselves from anything to do with KIP. Because you're in a conflict of interest, everything you've done.
That's not a conflict of interest.
What is it?
A conflict of interest.
No, what is what you did? What would you
There has to
term?
be monetary gain in a conflict.
No,
of interest.
absolutely not.
Well, sort of, that's the way
No,
it is.
that's not true. And a perceived conflict is just as bad.
Okay, that's, yes, go ahead.
On another note, on the last motion that was just passed, Mr. Bitton was saying, I think it was number 61 after the bylaw. Okay, where it said that, I'm not sure if I heard it right, because, yeah, something about, for the trust, maybe it says something like the trustees to review, that Article 61, and I personally would have thought that maybe you would have taken more time, since the rest of the trustees didn't have the written format in front of them, and that it should have been maybe suspended to the next meeting. But on that note, saying what you voted on, I would like to know what it meant by temporarily stop video recording. How long is temporary? That's what I want to know, because there's a lot of people that I know that can't make the meetings, and if they do put it on, do it themselves, like the UBID does their own video recording, I think they should do it ASAP so people know what's going on, and that they put it online ASAP.
Yeah, and we've discussed this again. We discussed this at our training session. Everybody's aware of this. We've had ongoing conversations about it. And yeah, again, we need to research this and not do something. We need to have the proper amendments to the bylaw that this is meeting the privacy claims for people. We've actually got a complaint about people being recorded in the questioning period. And it states in here that, that people can request that they're not recorded. So, again, I'm in favor of audio video recording, but it has to be copyrighted. And that removes the, when it's copyrighted, when something's copyrighted, it can't be abused, and it can't be used to cyberbully people. And it's a very it's a touchy subject, but again, item 61 clearly states, and I'll read it again here. And we actually had 12 emails from ratepayers concerned about the abuse of the audio video that's happening right now, as we all know. So let's not.
So
we know
that's
what's
like
happening with it.
2%
Okay.
of the
Yeah, I'll read item 61 here, okay? Where a concern arises involving inappropriate recording or sharing of personally recorded audiovisual material, the board will review the use and may take any such action as it considers appropriate against any person found to be contravening this restriction. So that very clearly states why we're doing this.
I just don't understand why you didn't review it more, maybe at another private meeting or something, but I want to know what temporary means. I'd like an answer tonight, like temporary.
Perhaps I could help you with that. The idea is that our administrator will investigate this matter and give us a report with some recommendations. Now, hopefully, that will be done very quickly. When I say temporary, I can't see this going any more than what, perhaps 6 weeks?
Well, it shouldn't take 6 weeks for something like that.
Yes, it can, because believe it or not, there's a lot going on in our office right now, and we're still in the transition
why are you
stage.
worried about it?
Buy a video recorder and you set it up and off you go.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
Really?
well,
So I guess
We're
freedom
gonna
of
review that.
speech doesn't happen in Union Beta, in any of the rooms.
that's your.
Recorders can't come in, that's the
Could I
question.
get a question from you, please? There?
Yeah, sure. Regarding this, stopping the recording of the meeting, if the big problem is that the audience is being inadvertently recorded, why don't we just shut the camera off at the end of the meeting? I don't care if you record me, that doesn't bother me when I heard it, but some people might.
That's a good point.
The second thing is,
Suzanne?
You spoke of going to a session where you had training, and I get that you ironed out a lot of the things that were going on that were frustrating everybody, and you came away with the spirit of moving ahead. Could we start to move ahead and spending hours on things that are not going anywhere?
And this is question period, and that was my question on why we can't get a camera in here sooner. I think it's residents' right to be able to do that, have that done.
We'll take that under advisement then, actually.
Oh, yeah, you will.
Several people have referenced our training, and at our training, Allison actually suggested that all of our meetings should be public, that meetings are, the public has a right to our meetings. She even referenced, I forget what town it was, where they don't even have in-camera meetings. Everything is in public. She made it very clear that the public have a right to to know what happens in a board meeting, and that video audio recording is in fact standard practice, and it makes sure that it's not an interpretation of what has occurred, which minutes can sometimes be. I have a very different, obviously a different experience of the entire day of training with Allison, who is very experienced, by the way.
Yes.
Hi. I was a little disappointed not to have any report of your in-camera meetings. I was really hoping to find out how much farther we were going with anything. When can we expect a report from your in-camera meetings?
Perhaps, Martin, you would like to address that part of it, since you're on the negotiating team, so to speak?
The board is allowed to go in camera for a variety of very specific items. You can't just go in camera and have a secret private meeting on any subject. So when we're negotiating, when we're discussing personnel issues will never be revealed. They'll never be public. Okay? So there's some things that will never come out of the camera. When the negotiations have been included.
You can say personnel.
Right.
That's exactly,
So we
and
know what
that's always
they
on the
discuss.
agenda, what we're going into the camera for. Which agenda we looking at?
But just about any of them?
Yes, they do. Actually, they do.
They'll say
They
that you're
specifically
going to have
put
an
it.
in-camera meeting.
And we'll give the reasons for going in camera. Negotiations, personnel, that's all the detail that you can get. Now, when the negotiations are complete, the board chooses they can release the debt, release that information, those minutes. Okay, there's There's a number of other things, legalities that were in being sued or
So are you saying there was no in-camera meeting?
No, but certainly, we
So
have this
you have not itemized
on
those
the,
things on
which
the
agenda are you looking at?
Tonight's.
Tonight's no in-camera meeting tonight, so there's nothing on the agenda.
No, on the agenda, you have to report out from in-camera meeting.
That's correct, but
But
there
there's
are no
no
minutes
report.
available to report.
Well,
There's still in negotiations.
So then you put in negotiations so that the ratepayers know what's being discussed, not the details.
So where the details are, when I publish a cow meeting, we have a cow meeting. And the reason we use a cow meeting because the notice situation is a little bit different. That's where this, what we went in camera for.
so there,
And they are on the website, on the door.
so I understand that there have been some in-camera meetings with the developer, is that correct?
There were no in-camera meetings with the developer.
Because there was one that had been scheduled earlier in this year, as I understand, because I did see that on the website. And I was hoping for some sort of report on that.
Not that I'm aware of, no meetings that I've had in camera with
To
the
be in April, and sometime in April.
board has not met with the developer.
Okay, so, but there's still decisions to be made about where the water treatment plant is going to be built, right?
Yes,
So how can we still not know where it's going to be built?
because we don't know where it's going to be built.
Well, and neither do all the landowners.
I
If
understand.
you're having in-camera meetings, but you're not having in-camera meetings with the developer, so how can that even still be an option, I guess is what I'm saying.
So what,
In-
can I explain what is happening?
Just one more little thing, if you don't mind. My point is this, I think we want to be more transparent, don't we, with everybody, with all the landowners. I think we're all interested in knowing how things are going. And by you having in-camera meetings and not reporting on them, and now you say you haven't had any in-camera meetings, but you're still always holding out that there's going to be some property coming from the developer, and that's where the water treatment center is going to be built. I would like more information about that, and just saying that there isn't any report, and then there's no committee that's been called to work on this, there's no report from any committee that's investigating this, so where are we going with it? Are we going in?
Let me see if I can address
Sure.
that as
Well-
possible. The meetings have been attended by me. With
Right,
anybody's-
Sorry, that's who it was, it was you were meeting with the
I was
developer,
meeting, not the board.
the board.
The meeting itself is confidential. I can come back and I report to the board in camera. So the meetings in camera have been me telling the board what our negotiations have been, and then telling me what they don't like or do like or would like to suggest.
Okay.
Okay, so that's
But
as
that
far
would
as we're.
still be covered by what I just asked.
It is, but it's also, the negotiations are, what kind of, they're sensitive. They're drawn to a close. I mean, we have a deadline, and once the deadline is passed, the deadline being, as I've said many times, we need to know where this is going to be built and
Thank
go to
you.
the next RFP.
Thank you. That's all I want to know,
So
is
the
that
RFP
somebody else takes that serious.
Yeah, I take it seriously.
Okay,
When we have, we have to go ahead with the project, that's got to,
thank you.
right? The window of our negotiations with the building, if we can't get something organized soon, very soon, we have to tell the engineers to build on the highway property we already own. It would be less expensive if we could organize a different study. There are some issues about the highway property that will increase the cost of building. So that is what your board has been working towards. That's what I've been assigned to negotiate. But are we getting there? I honestly can't tell you yet.
Perhaps, ma'am, I could just say,
Can I ask
yes.
just one more question for all of you now?
Yes.
So what is our time? How long are we going to give to decide? To say, okay, it's not going to happen, we're going to move on.
We have,
Thank you.
when the second, okay, I'm talking about the request for proposals. Okay, so we have completed one request for proposal for the supply of the filtration plant. We have 30 days to respond to that request for proposal to award or not award, particularly one of the suppliers that did. Following that, they have something in the order of 30 days to come back with specific plans of how the plant will tie in. Then we have to tell the engineers where to build the thing, because the next stage is site-specific.
That's the part I'm talking about.
Okay.
How long are you going to give before a decision is made?
Well, we have until that stage when we have to go to the engineers and say, okay, design and build. That has to be site-specific. At that point, we have to tell them where it's going to be.
And have you got any idea, like month,
Year?
Yeah, I just said, there's
Yeah.
30 days, another 30 days, 2 months,
2 months from now,
from actually May 2nd.
May 2nd, okay. That decision needs to be made.
Yeah.
So that's the July 1st date that the BHA is looking for?
No,
No?
no, okay, to go on the process one more time. The VHA wants a construction permit by August 31st.
Right.
It actually takes them a couple of months to analyze our data.
Right.
And they're going to want building plans. So what's going to happen is we're not going to make the date because in 60 days
Right.
or so,
Right.
we are going to start designing the building. And then we go to an RFP for contractors to bid on the building. And then we get the construction plans back from them after a certain length of time again. That's going to go to Island Health, I hope, probably near the end of August or the beginning of August, if we get really lucky and everything's going fine. But my hope and trust at this point is that they will consider that significant progress, that we're actually doing something. If we go back and say we're still negotiating, I don't think that's going to impress them. We've negotiated for a long, long time.
So we do have a date on that?
We do.
Right, 2 months from now?
Pretty much.
Okay.
I would like to say, ma'am, that the meetings, the in-camera meetings we have had have been very much solely concerned with these negotiations. And they simply have to be in camera right now. And we're actually at a very crucial stage in the negotiations.
Going back to the landowner's first point about what meetings have been held, what haven't been held. And I believe it's because we are new and our administrator is new, but I believe under old business, there should be a reference to an in-camera meeting was held on such and such a date to discuss matters surrounding whatever. Not details, but it should be referenced. Also, the terms of reference for cow meetings is any recommendation coming from a cow meeting must come to the next regular general membership meeting. So I think perhaps if we could look at that in the future so that all the landowners know from the regular meeting, because they may not follow all the other meetings on the website, but if they're looking at the regular board meeting minutes, they should see a reference to cow meetings that were held on certain dates and regarding matters that necessitated going in camera. But, so I think that should really be reflected in these regular minutes.
Chair?
Good point. Trustee Kelly.
Again, in the interest of transparency and clarity, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. G, you have been meeting with the developer upon the board motion along with the facilitator, Mr. Madison.
That's correct.
Yeah, just so that you know, and that was decided in January. So it has been the two of you, Mr. Madison, Mr. G, and the developer, and that was a decision made by the board with the recommendation of the provincial government, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
We are taking the timelines very seriously, but it would be remiss of us to do something without proper research and looking at all the options. And you know, certainly it would be very simple to throw our hands up in the air and say, yes, we're going to put it on the highway property. But we're talking many thousands of dollars difference, you know, $500,000 to $600,000 difference between the two options. I live in Union Bay as well, so I want to make sure that we get the best option available to us. There's actually 3 options out there. So there's the option of the Crown land, which there was a meeting to discuss that as well. So, you know, again, I think this board here is really working together to find the best solution for, certainly there's a short timeline, but finding the right solution is the real thing that we need to go through. And I believe if we're moving forward, that VHA is going to support us, you know.
Yes, this chap over here.
Can you tell me if that crown lawn you're referring to is the same Crown land that was in play before, that was kind of intervened by...
First Nations.
Yes, you're correct.
Yeah.
Cleve, yes.
Yeah, I kind of cut off short last time around.
Sorry about that.
I think you guys should think a bit more about stopping your recordings. Because the very first thing that comes to mind, whether it's justified or not, is what are they scared of, what are they trying to hide? So I'll leave you with that and let you think about it. The other thing is regarding bylaws. Bylaws are inviolate. If you want to change it, you have to put a superseding bylaw in place before you can ignore or do anything with the old one.
Yes, just wanted to reassure you that the meetings will still be recorded by the board. And it will be available on the website. Go ahead.
I just want clarification. Mr. DeVille, when he was here, he recorded the meetings so he could make accurate minutes. And is that the type of recording that would be useful for the board, rather than something that's put on a website that becomes, I'm afraid, a bit of a joke for many people? So I can see that, my question is that what you're going to do, recording is an important part. Having it that the board records the minutes for their own, clarification and, what was said and done. I can see the point of that. Was that something you would consider rather than something from the audience? Because I could bring my camera next time and so could anybody else here.
Well, then do
Just
it.
give it and we could put it and play it out anywhere.
Freedom of speech.
So I'm just saying that if cameras are,
It's a
it's
public
allowed.
meeting.
So are you the board going to take and record the minutes, the meetings rather, so that they're there as a backup?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
Do you mean audio visual minutes?
Yeah.
Let me answer that.
Well, audio,
To clarify that, I understand what you're asking, and we audio record all meetings, right? It's audio recorded, and anybody can access that audio recording if they want. So it's being recorded right now, is that correct, Mark?
I certainly hope so.
Okay, so it's not as if we, I take a lot of offense to somebody asking me what I want to hide or what are we trying to do. I mean, that's a very offensive statement, actually, Cleve. And I've got nothing to hide from anybody, but I don't want to be abused. Is the other thing. So, yeah, well, the perception really, to me, it doesn't. We need to get this right. And there's actually people that won't run as trustees because of what is going on in this community and the cyberbullying. So think about that. So anyway, when these audio-video things are taken on by the Improvement District, they're copyrighted. And that's the difference. And that's what most municipalities do to protect themselves. Because once it's copyrighted, it can't be abused. If it is abused, then there's legal action that can be taken. So that's why, and again, we're learning like everybody else is, and this was taken on a certain way, but it's challenged now, and it has to change. And again, I've researched it a fair amount, and it'll be up to our administrators to find out what the right thing to do is, but I believe we'll be doing it ourselves, and it'll be copyrighted, and it'll be available on the website. That's my vision of where we're going.
One final question there, ma'am.
Yeah, regarding Trustee Bitten's motion. In what he read out there, the remedy is if there's an individual, which obviously is me, then you take it up with me. Why would you suspend a bylaw because of one person? If the bylaw is being abused, it's up to you to advise me of that. Not to, you don't punish everybody because of one person.
Be my guest.
Again, I clearly stated this will be the 4th time I've said it, and I'll say it again so you can hear it. When we do it ourselves, it changes the perspective of how it is, it's controlled by us.
How?
It's copyrighted
How?
by us.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is. And
Where will it be? Where are you gonna put it?
I think, Mary, you should do some research. I did my
I think you
research,
should do some
and
research.
excuse me, actually, the lady that put our training on is the one that suggested we do that, and she's the one that said it is